That oration bears the title, The Quiet Place, How Government Censorship in the Media Silences Our Free Speech. Please welcome Jordan Hahn.
Silenced. Politicians, journalists, doctors, all are silenced with the touch of a button. Not only silenced, but banished from society. This is the new normal. Censorship is all around us every day, but we don't like to talk about it. We don't like to talk about the fact that our freedom is in jeopardy, holding on to the edge of a towering cliff that oversees a shadowed valley. We don't like to talk about the fact that the government regulates our lives like we're pawns on a chessboard, moving us around at the will of the party who runs the game. We don't like to talk about the fact that the media has an intense grip on our supposed free speech, strangling it ever so slowly until we gasp for our last breath. So we pretend it's not happening. We pretend that the government can never take away our free speech because it's our right. But it is happening. We are being silenced, but we don't like to talk about it. In recent years, we've seen the evolving of a government who has no shame in conspiring with the big tech companies in order to censor individual Americans who pose a threat to their agenda. Not only is this censorship discussed daily in political news today, but we also have concrete proof that the government has silenced media users countless times via the incriminating Twitter files released by Elon Musk in 2021. In the course of just a few months, thousands of tweets and emails were released to the American public, revealing the collusion between the federal government and Twitter in order to silence certain accounts and topics if they did not align with government agendas. These files were a shock to the American people, showing them plainly the vast amounts of censorship within both political and medical areas that have been happening behind closed doors. Significantly, the moderation of content relating to political scandals like the Hunter Biden laptop and urgent health debates and issues during the COVID-19 pandemic has infected our country. Although private media platforms are known to work with the government in order to silence certain topics and people, I believe that the government's collusion in media censorship is a violation of our First Amendment rights. Because the freedom of speech and of the press demand that all Americans should be able to speak their views freely in the media without interference from the government. The only way to combat this government censorship lies in our own Constitution, the First Amendment. The Freedom of Speech Clause states specifically that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. The First Amendment is our choice weapon because it outlines unequivocally that the freedom of speech of Americans should be protected. Although many legislators have tried to pass laws that would ban certain content or accounts on social media platforms, the decision ultimately goes back to the Constitution, which awards the victory to free speech, as that is a right which the founders of our country have envisioned for the American people. Therefore, when the federal government becomes involved in the censorship of American individuals, it is considered the abridgment of freedom of speech, and subsequently unconstitutional. The debate extends to far more than free speech. It also extends to freedom of the press, and subsequently the media. Media consumed through the internet also falls under this umbrella, because it is the modern conduit through which Americans receive their news today. News content that is broadcasted online and on television also should be protected under freedom of the press, because those are forms of press in this new technological age. That being said, we must now look into what the words freedom of the press mean for Americans today. A free media is essential to our democratic system because it allows the public to keep the government accountable for their actions while also giving them a voice of their own. These government limitations have allowed the American people to share news and important information about what the government is doing, while also giving them the opportunity to decide for themselves what they want to believe from the news that they are consuming. However, recent technological advancements like social media platforms have reinvented the way that media is distributed among citizens, which, in turn, has transformed the media into a bloody battle between parties. Therefore, it's even more critical that Americans dig deep for the truth and stand against the government's censorship. Because we, the people, have a right to a free media, a right that is non-negotiable in our country. Some people might argue that government censorship in the media, on some level, is actually beneficial to the American people. While I do agree that there are some unpleasant things which could be shown in the media, the censorship of them isn't up to the government. The federal government cannot be in charge of what is censorable and what is not in a free media. In a political context, this can also be applied to debate and media, so that every side of the political spectrum and all truth can be relayed to the American people. Again, we look to the First Amendment, which protects all speech, whether it is hateful, false, or inappropriate. Evelyn Beatrice Hall articulates this in her book, The Friends of Voltaire, saying, "I disapprove of what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it." We might disapprove of another person's speech, but we have absolutely no right to censor them because of their opinion. This open forum media concept that I propose has unfortunately been twisted in order to silence hate speech, painting the media to be a place of sunshine and rainbows without any substantial conversation. But we can see clearly how a free media will benefit the American people and give them a voice, while also securing their born rights to free speech. We don't like to talk about it. The lies, the collusion, the silencing, we don't like to talk about it because we're afraid. Afraid of being silenced, suppressed, censored. But we should talk about it. The issue of censorship is a festering wound in America today, infecting all American society the longer it goes untreated. The modern media is burdened by the moderation of content by the federal government, which has shaped the media to be a pitiful place for exchanging substantial ideas. The federal government has absolutely no place in regulating the speech of Americans. It is an unalienable right. Our founding fathers knew it, and we know it too. It is our right. And it is every American's duty to stand up against the media's suppression. Let me ask you something. Will we be silent about being silenced? Thank you.